Yo, welcome back. I'm Clay, and today we're going over a few of the strongest weapon combos for faster missions, leveling, and most importantly, collecting tons of crafting materials. And there's a lot of pretty insane combos to help you get the maps done ridiculously fast. And a couple people have been telling me to try out a few of their meta builds, but the RNG shop hasn't exactly been good to me. So if you have something that I didn't put in the video that you think is super fun or good at farming, let me know about it in the comments, and I'll keep an updated one pinned with all the ones that I think are the coolest. And lighting this off, I think the most efficient material farming is tier 3 currently, because you can still get the maps done in under 15 minutes with random people while still getting a pretty decent reward. It's like a nice middle ground for when you want to turn your brain off and just watch a show while you're grinding. But my absolute favorite build for farming these is the bleed grenade build on my veteran. And we talked about it in my Discord quite a bit, and I've been getting more and more people to fall in love with it. And I've had some really good success with this build in all tiers, even like tier 5, I used it a couple of times, but it does kind of struggle on those maps where you have to traverse a really far distance because you really just don't have any long range things other than your bleed grenade. And in tier 1 to 3, it actually just deletes everything, with my fastest like tier 1 chasm station being like a 10 or a 12-minute game with a group of farmers. And this is the same build that I talked about in the veteran guide too. So anytime something goes wrong and there's a massive group that's just getting a little too out of control and I just went a little too deep with this thing, I just push F, it instantly reloads the auto pistol, I kill one mob, it terrifies everything around it, and then I throw the super grenade of bleeding doom. Just make sure you pull your dagger out when you throw the grenade so that it actually stacks the bleed, and it'll just melt every single thing off your screen. But I think my favorite part about the whole thing is just the aesthetic of like constantly flipping the blade around. It's just honestly all the little things in this game that make me really happy. And for some reason, it's just so satisfying for me to just glide around the map, tagging everything once with an infinite bleed stack, and just having that cool animation go off the whole time. It really makes the long hours of trying to get materials to craft a bunch of legendaries for a video not so bad. But on my Zelda, a lot of people were telling me about the combat blade and axe being a really fun build for speedrunning, and I would definitely agree. Being able to turn your brain off, just being absolutely unkillable the entire time you're playing it, is just super fun. I haven't gotten a bleed combat blade yet, so I haven't been able to do that, but I have been using the crit axe and it works amazing. It's just super fun to play. But a lot of people don't know that crit's currently bugged on the alt, so that it actually affects ranged weapons as well. So you could pull out your flamethrower and be like, okay, I'm going to do some extra damage with the burn. But even better, you could pull out a braced auto gun, and because the 100% crit multiplier breaks the armor scaling value from the damage, it just lets you do this in the T5 training room. Now, it doesn't work on normal mobs for some reason, just the armored ones, but it made me think the game can't actually tell the difference between melee and range crit chance, which is fine, because it's actually pretty fun to fly around shooting with a garbage tier green braced autogun and melt a crusher on tier 5. And I'll post a video on my alt channel of a short clip of showing how it actually works, and I'll explain it a bit more in tomorrow's Zealot guide. I won't go too deep into it because the fun police are going to come knock this one out of the park probably fairly soon, but we'll have to see how long it takes to fix it, because if they can't differentiate melee and range crit chance, it's going to be a whole ordeal. So I did start running around with the tac axe and the braced autogun. I was using the shotgun, but it wasn't nearly as good as the braced autogun with the ultimate thing. So even though it made farming really fast and nothing could really stop me except the demon host, which, I mean, you just don't fight them anyways, I think I still have more fun with the flamethrower and the eviscerator of Thunderhammer. The eviscerator is just really cool. I'm just in love with the way the weapon works. It's just insanely fun for me to just use the thing. But I really prefer the Thunderhammer if I'm farming like 4s and 5s. Knocking all the mobs around with that hefty shaft is everything I could have asked for. Like, nothing can really attack back, especially if you just go the build where like nothing can interrupt your auto attacks. You're just crushing everything. And it actually makes the Thunderhammer feel pretty good to be able to spam heavy attacks and just bonk everything all over the place, like an Emperor-powered street sweeper. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know I'm obsessed with hammers, but even more with big hammers, and even more with Thunderhammers. It would be like you would think I'm compensating for something. But the Thunderhammer has honestly been my favorite weapon since I was a little kid, and I first started liking Warhammer, which is why not having some kind of explosion when it hits something makes me kind of sad. But that's pretty much everyone's complaint, is that the Thunderhammer doesn't have some kind of explosion. Like, the lore is like usually you'd have like a shield so that the blowback off the hammer blast wouldn't like completely knock you to pieces or whatever. So it is a little disappointing that all the other weapons have that special fantasy and they feel like you would think about them from reading like a Warhammer book or something. So hopefully Fat Shark adds it in eventually and just makes the Thunderhammer have that like explosive feeling that you think it would have, right? It's a Thunderhammer. But it made me think that I wish the Ogryn had a giant hammer. Like, it would just be everything I wanted. Giant big dumb man with the huge hammer swinging it around. That would just be everything I ever wanted. And by no means am I an Ogre main, but I started loving running around with the Bull Butcher and the Rumbler. A lot of people on the Best Weapons video said that I had to try and get a decent Rumbler and run around with it. And for you non-Ogre enjoyers, it's a grenade launcher with a crazy reload speed. Like imagine just spamming veteran grenades as much as you want. But even better, they second as a sniper rifle that lets you pick things across the map. And I really couldn't believe that I was RPing as a Ratling, just much larger and better. And it's just an overall cool weapon that lets you fast swap and shoot pretty much instantly and nuke things on lower tiers. That's the most important thing, is we're talking about speed running for materials. This is great for it. And you can do it with the Ogryn's shotgun too, but I just haven't gotten a good one yet out of the shop to mess around with. But I did have a ton of fun with this thing and even started doing like trick shots and bouncing stuff off walls and the floor. It really made farming my 25 weekly mission slightly less painful, which by the way, that mission has absolutely got to go. Think about it. An average mission takes like 20 to 30 minutes if you're not like trying to W key speed run the whole thing, right? So that's like close to like 10 to 15 hours in some cases if you're farming in the higher tiers. And most people don't want to spend 10 to 15 hours a week just farming one stupid weekly quest out. I think rolling this one down to like 10 to 15 for the cap is the way to go, because it honestly just sucks to get it on multiple characters and then you have to bleed your gold out to re-roll it off because it's too much. It really honestly is. So I'll keep re-rolling off of it for now, but hopefully they change that too. And again, for every mission I did from tier 1 to 3 with the Bull Butcher, just cleaving through hordes of enemies on full W key with my brain off was a good time. I was even watching Love Island Australia with a couple of my friends while we were farming materials, and if anybody's ever watched it, they know it's one of the most toxic shows on the planet and very distracting, but we all can't get enough of it. So being able to just full W key on the Ogryn was anything I could have asked for, so I could pay attention more to the show than the game. And I haven't really been farming on my Psyker at all because farming 4 characters is kind of agony, so he's taken a little break this week. But when I do want to speedrun on it, I really like using the Dueling Sword and the Flame Staff, or like a Force Sword with the Deflector trait that lets you deflect like all incoming fire. It's actually just pretty cool. But someone did tell me that the maxed AoE size Trauma Staff thing is really cool. So trying to get one with an RNG roll off my shop will happen eventually, but I just can't get one out of my shop. So I guess I'll show that off when I can get it, I guess. But we already went over my favorite weapon combos I like to farm T4s and 5s with. I've just been pugging them to see how bad it actually is. It's really not as crazy as most people say. I would say the hardest part about actually doing a tier 5 is keeping 4 people connected to the lobby at the same time.
Someone crashed?
Yeah, someone did crash.
Nurgle chose him. I game froze.
Dude, every time an event has happened, somebody's crashed. And on this map that destroys my FPS since the last driver update, I don't think we had more than 3 people online in the mission at any of the events, which obviously made the tier 5 way harder than it ever could have been. And honestly, I think the system's like not the worst right now, because if you're a brand new player, like you just start playing, you go from level 1 to 30 and you can basically just get 2 to 3 legendaries by the time you hit 30. It sucks for everybody who played the like open beta and we didn't really get a whole bunch of stuff, but it is what it is, right? Like we're going to keep playing in the life in the game anyway, so it's not like a super problem, just a minor setback. The game tried to make us lose to the stage where it gave up.